The 365-day mark since South Africa went into lockdown is looming, and the year has come with many negatives, including a spike in divorce statistics. Some of the contributing factors to this include financial pressures, homeschooling, and even being together constantly. Lawyers say marriages, which were already in trouble before the lockdown, were exposed to a situation where spouses were in each other's presence 24/7 with no freedom. Let's speak now to relationship expert Paula Qinsee about the psychological effects that the lockdown has had, especially on relationships and marriages. Thank you very much, Paula, for joining us. Now, of course, divorce lawyers saying that they've seen more clients coming to them to file for divorce. I assume, of course, that one of the things is having to spend time with each other constantly and probably not really liking each other very much.
Yes, absolutely. You know, lockdown has impacted us on many levels, obviously from a financial perspective. We either loss of salary, loss of job or business closing down, and it does impact. It brings huge stress and trauma into the relationship. And then if your relationship was already rocky before we went into lockdown, now being confined in the same space with each other just puts a spotlight on everything that wasn't working in your relationship. And that's adding to that strain as well. And the more we go into lockdown and the more confined we are or restricted we are, we're starting to realize that potentially we don't like each other anymore, or we've just reached the end of the road when it comes to our relationship.
How does homeschooling fit into all of this? What does the child have to do now with, their parents not liking each other?
Yeah, it's just another added responsibility that, from what we've seen from all the stats and research out there, predominantly falls on the shoulders of the women, who are the natural nurturers and caretakers of the home. So it is impacting them from a work delivery perspective, because they now have to juggle the household responsibilities as well as be a homeschooling and teacher on top of that. And so feeling like they're not being supported, like they're not, like they're carrying a lot of roles and responsibilities, and there's no equality in terms of sharing that and being a partner and partnership in terms of the household.
I want to go back to the finance part of this entire situation that some couples have found themselves in. Of course, when we get married, we say till death do us part, good or bad, I'll still love you, I'll still stay with you. But I guess, that's not really a very solid promise if we're going to leave each other if one of us loses their job or one of us businesses is closed down.
Absolutely. When we think about marriage, we're normally associating it with the wedding day, that special day where it's going to be the best day or happiest day of our lives, and we're going to live happily ever after. But not many couples stop to think about the long-term skills and work that's required to make a relationship work for the long term together in terms of a healthy relationship. So being able to resolve conflict. And, we don't want to think of the negatives when we think about marriage and potentially death or divorce or severe illness or disability or even losing your job, because those are things we don't associate with happily ever after. But it is a very big reality of the life and the world that we live. So it's how do we deal with those situations in terms of how do we support each other, how are we there for each other, how do we create emotional safety to talk about these difficult topics from a relationship perspective.
All right, so let's just give some couples a little bit of hope from you as a relationship expert. If there's a couple right now that is about to go through this or is thinking of doing this, what would you advise them, in terms of trying to reconcile?
So I think firstly, it's to be really honest with yourself first before you can be honest with your partner in terms of, is it really your relationship that is struggling, or is it just the compounded effect of being in lockdown and everything that's on top of that is potentially now playing out in your relationship? If you do feel that there is something that you still want to fight for and save in your marriage, to definitely seek help from a professional near you, because providing you with a different perspective or an outsider to help you work through and process the things that are going wrong in your relationship and to get you back on track. Or if you've decided that you have reached the end of the road, then definitely, again, find an expert or a therapist or a professional to help you, especially where children are involved, that you can still create an emotional, stable foundation for the children, despite the home now being split into two separate homes.
I assume for those couples who probably split because of the homeschooling being a challenge, right now they must be going through some type of regret because children are back at school as per normal. And, you know, that if that was your main reason to split up because of the homeschooling, maybe you felt the one partner didn't help enough or whatever, how do you let go of the pride and try and get your family back together?
Yeah, and it can play a big role, and this is often where the healing process, like any loss, takes time. So, loss of the family unit, loss of the marriage, loss of the relationship, loss of the home. And it's really around how can we forgive each other. And forgiveness is really around accepting that this is what happened. This is how it made me feel from an emotional perspective, and what actions do we need to take to move forward to get to where we want to get to, whatever that vision looks like, or that next step in your life looks like. And it does take time, and it takes work from both sides, and it's a process. Change is a process, healing is a process, but with the right support structures in place, either a professional or family or friends that can help you work through it, and being very intentional about doing the work together, there's no reason why you can't turn the situation around if you really want to.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Paula Qinsee, a relationship expert, speaking to us there about the number of divorces apparently spiking during this year of COVID-19.